If there is one thing we learned from the 2026 MLB All-Star Game is that good pitching still beats good hitting. Guardians seem to have plenty of that. So we'll talk about if it's time to look towards reinforcements as the second half starts. So we'll talk about those and reinforcements they continue to add in the minor league system.
Parker Messick, Cleveland Guardians. You're listening to Locked On Guardians.
You are Locked On Guardians, your daily podcast on the Cleveland Guardians. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
From Florida State to the spring breakout game, second round pick, Locked On Guardians interviewee, friend of the show, to the All-Star Game, Parker Messick. I know Jeff was watching all of the 10 pitches that Parker Messick threw on Tuesday night.
I was watching an old episode of ER while I did pre-setup for the show. That's what I was doing.
Okay, wow, Jeff, very, very fun. I'm glad you stuck with predictability on Tuesday night.
We saw exactly why we shouldn't have exhibition baseball with Junior Caminero nearly getting knocked out for the year.
Yeah, but hey, 21 strikeouts by MLB pitchers and a shutout by the AL. And I told everybody to take the NL because I thought for sure there was no question the NL had the better roster, and the AL shut them out. And yeah, all the hitters struck out a lot. So that tells us pitching is still pretty good. Locked On Guardians, I think we're still pretty good over here as we hit the All-Star break. Your only daily Cleveland Guardians podcast. There is no break for us. That covers your team every day from the majors, the minors, the draft, and everything in between. And as always, we'll touch on all three facets today, I'm quite sure, on this episode. We'll talk about the Guardians dominating the draft even more, as Jeff touched on yesterday, and adding more upside to the system. We'll talk about time to talk trades and the time to look for reinforcements to start today's show. That, of course, is Jeff Ellis, your host here for the last 8 years. I'm Justin Lada, been here for 4 years, and we've covered the Guardian system for 19 years, as well as the draft. Yeah, I did watch not every minute of the All-Star game, so I did have to drive home because I was out for some of it, but I did go back and watch the announcers talk over Parker Messick's wonderful 10-pitch inning. So that was very nice of the announcers to pay no attention to Parker Messick the same way Jeff did, even though he went out and absolutely dominated. So yeah, pitching still a story. I know it's one inning or one outing, and you're facing the best of the best. So it's not like, Parker Messick and all these other guys will be on the same team all year long, but good pitching can still beat good hitting in a lot of days. I was surprised at how bad the hitting was in the All-Star game. So the Guardians pitching, they're set, right? They just need hitters, right, Jeff? That's it.
Yeah. No, but they you're looking at a team that is, as much as people were ready to be like, this is the worst team I've seen in my entire life. I'm like, okay, well, you are not in your 40s or older like me. And then people were like, I am 60 years old. And I'm like, you saw it worse than I did. You experienced the 70s with this team. Like, come on. Yeah. Like, this is clearly not a 70s team. Like, I was cognizant enough of the late 80s to see the worst baseball of my life. That was when it was the worst baseball. So it's like, I never thought we were as poor as everyone wanted to jump up and scream we were as a team. But, very clearly relief help. I know we'll talk trades in a bit. I definitely want to raid the sinking ship that is the Athletics, formerly of Oakland. And, we'll talk about some of these other bottom feeder teams. Like the Detroit Tigers. No, I'm kidding. Actually, they're probably going to try to do the opposite. But I do love everyone being like, hey, they've been one of the hottest teams. And I'm like, guys, we're really going to hop in Detroit after they lost their last 2 games before the break. I know they're 7-3 in their last 10. They have played a lot better, but it's like, it's still a long ways to go. But it is funny that like you're Detroit also with the 8th worst record, because this is baseball and it's really hard to stay good every single year unless you're the Cleveland Guardians, who somehow manage to do it while everyone continues to tell us why they're a trash organization. So
yeah, they're still they're technically tied for first place with the White Sox. I think the big question going in the second half is going to be like, as far as trades go, like who's going to be available? Like, because we'll get into some of the trade
100%. That is always the question.
Yeah, I as somebody who grew up loving things like the hot stove, league in the off season, and before the days of social media, it was like refreshing ESPN or watching Baseball Tonight specials.
I remember falling asleep, like trying to stay up to midnight to get to the trade deadline while watching like Sports Center on ESPN over at my grandma's house. Cause I didn't have cable at my house. So, but I would be like on a deadline, I'd go over there and just like falling asleep on the floor of her living room.
Yeah. Because they would have specials until midnight when the clock. Yeah, back when the clock would strike 0 at midnight. Now it's 5 p.m. on August 3rd, which is a Monday. I think the big thing is they're eventually going to have to push it back to the middle of August. Like, you can't keep having the same. I know it's August 3rd right now, but like you got to have like August 15th or something, because you need 2 more weeks for these teams to decide. Because you're talking about the Tigers, and it's like they're 8 games below 500 right now, and they're probably 3 back of the last wild card spot. Like, they're technically quote unquote in it. The only teams in the AL that aren't in the race are like the Angels and the Athletics and the Royals, right? Everybody else is kind of like quote unquote in it. The Blue Jays aren't far out. The Orioles.
Blue Jays are 2.5 back. The Orioles, who I need to die like a dog, are 2 out. And by the way, they won 4 before the break. So that's a real kick in the pants for me, is that they won their last 4 and now they're 2 back. I mean, Boston, everyone talked about how terrible they were. Boston is on the cusp. They're half a game behind the Twins and the Mariners, who are currently tied for that 3rd spot. Like that's where we are with the Astros. Everyone's talking about the Astros, a 1.5 back. Baltimore. So Los Angeles is 10 back. Kansas City is 10 back. Oakland is 6.5, and the Tigers are 3.5. So unfortunately, they're probably not going to make a trade to Kansas City because just the divisional stuff. But yeah, in the American League, it's like Oakland and Los Angeles, and that's it. And I know we're talking trades, but like everyone keeps asking me about Joe Adell. I know he does have some decent platoon splits, but like last year was clearly a career year. Go look at his. My buddy is. One of my best baseball friends is an Angels beat writer, and I told him about how everyone wants to trade for Joe Adell, and he kind of laughed at it. He's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yes," but like that's not the guy to go get. He's had 1 good year.
I do wonder if the Angels will take a different roadmap, because they don't have a GM right now. They have an advisor, which is John Messick. And they did have
the team who doesn't allow him to sell, so it doesn't matter.
True.
It's always been Artie Moreno blocking it.
They did have a different draft than they have had in quite some time, so that's interesting.
But the same people calling the picks outside of Perry Massaman. I mean, they only fired him; they kept everyone else. So
I know, but maybe it's still hands off.
No,
I don't know. So maybe they'll take a different direction.
They're going to operate the same way. That's from talking to people who have connections. Okay. It's not going to change.
Good for them. At least, life could be worse. It could be an Angels fan.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Athletics certainly, obviously, they're out of it, but they certainly signaled where they're going. I think with some of their moves on Wednesday, where they're calling up Tommy White from AAA, who was part of that 2024 draft class. They DFA'd old friend Aaron Savali, and who else did they made a couple of their moves today, didn't they?
I was trying to think off the top of my head what the other ones were. I mean, I look at that team, and for those who have not followed them, like Brent Rooker was terrible, and then he got hurt, and he's done for the year. Nick Kurtz went on the disabled list right before the break. Shane Langoliers has cooled off a bit from his hot start, but on the upside, Tyler Soderstrom has picked it up. Carlos Cortez rebounded a little in July, but Zach Geloff was having a great year, also hurt. So they're just beat up, and they don't have a lot of great chances. Lawrence Butler is probably one of your and mine's biggest swing and misses. Like, he is just, from the minute he signed his extension, he has just gone right in the can, and you and I were both big fans of his. And then, Gage Jumps looked fantastic for them. And JT Ginn's been a pleasant surprise for them as well. I mean, he's more of a 5.
They're bringing up Junior Tur, so I don't actually know who that is. But
yeah, I mean,
that's another one they're bringing up.
They are beat up. They're not playing well. They've lost 9 in a row. That's why Cleveland couldn't gain any ground on the White Sox. They're an absolute. Remember when we faced them when they were in first place before everyone got hurt, and Carlos Cortez was playing with his hair on fire, and Jeff McNeil was still good, and he's gone in a total tailspin. So I mean, for me, I look at that team. I mean, the only guy worth even talking about, I think, is Mark Leiter Jr., who's been awesome for them and is on a 1-year deal. Like that's the trade piece that only makes sense when you look at where they are and what they might trade. I think everyone else they're going to hold on to and hope to keep building towards that Las Vegas outcome.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely signaling that they're making that move towards next year. I think with some of the moves they made today, and I think they'll continue to make. We could talk more about some of their players in a little bit. I also want to point out too, like I know Lance McCullers went to the Brewers from the Astros on Wednesday. That's not indicative of either team what they aren't going to do. The Brewers really need pitching depth right now. They're hurting because Kyle Harrison just went on the IL. Lance McCullers has not been good in a long time. He's constantly hurt, so he's definitely going to wind up throwing 6 shutout innings in the NLDS for the Brewers this year. So you can take that one to the bank, I think.
They got a free arm to take on part of his contract, like $2.5 million left of it.
Yeah, they took on money, which is good for them. They need it. They need the arms. And then the Astros got Prince Fielder's son just as a whatever.
Yeah.
So that's not indicative that the Astros are selling. They didn't have room for McCullers. The Brewers were desperate. So I wouldn't take that as any sort of signal. The Brewers are going to buy. They have the best farm system in baseball by and large, I think, by far. The Astros, who don't have a great farm system, they had a great draft, they're going to buy. They're going to be in. Or they might just stand pat, or maybe they'll do like a buy and sell. But don't think about Yordan Alvarez. Don't think about maybe they do a buy sell with like Christian Walker or I don't know, maybe, but I wouldn't view those things as indicative. I also wouldn't view those things as the trade market's heating up, because it's going to take every bit of these last 2.5 weeks for all these teams to decide what they are and aren't going to do. You're going to see a lot of moves on July 30th, July 31st, August 1st. So as much as I want the trade deadline to start happening, it's not going to happen tomorrow. All right, we'll talk more about some targets, and then we got some more draft news for the Guardians, some more interesting things they haven't done before and why they keep dominating. We'll get into that next. This episode is sponsored by our friends over at FanDuel, the biggest stage in world soccer. And FanDuel is changing the game because sometimes your player, they get subbed out, right? Your bet is going to go out with them. Not anymore. FanDuel Super Sub. If your player gets subbed out, your bet stays in. That's right. So if your player leaves the match, your bet continues on with the player's substitutes. So you're in it till the final whistle. Gotta love a good mulligan, right? Matches like these, anything can happen, especially at this point in the tournament. And now your bet can go the distance. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel. I have not really watched a whole lot of soccer, so I won't tell you who has been subbed in or subbed out or who's left, but I will tell you that somehow all these players are above Parker Messick when it comes to the Rookie of the Year in the American League. Kevin McGonigal, no shock there. Murakami, no shock there. Okamoto from the Blue Jays, Sam Basallo, Carter Jensen, Travis Bazzana, Sam Antonacci, all above Parker Messick in the AL Rookie of the Year race. And you really want Parker Messick to find a way to do it to get the Guardians that extra draft pick plus 3,000. I think he's the best bet for the Guardians to get an AL Rookie of the Year if it's going to happen. Plus 3,000 over there on FanDuel. Let there be goals this summer on FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockdown to get started. It's FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON to get started now. We thank you, as always, for making Locked On Guardians your first listen today and every day, wherever it is that you get podcasts. And if you want more of the show, you want to start talking trade, you want to start talking whatever else is going on in Major League Baseball, you want to talk about the All-Star Game and the Home Run Derby with Jeff, who's got a lot of thoughts and opinions on that, you can check out the Everydayer Club because it gets you access to ad-free versions of the show, as well as access to the free listener Discord that's got other listeners of the show, other Guardians fans, as well as Jeff and myself, and a Discord channel for every other single show and team on our network. Go to LockedOnGuardians.supercast.com or check the link in your show notes and get a 7-day free trial when you sign up right away. You did have an interesting off-air take about the Home Run Derby, Jeff. You want to share that?
Sure.
Well, that's relevant. It's relevant to the trade deadline because people want to trade this player.
Well, before I do that, I want to point out one other thing too. With the whole thing with the Brewers, they've used 11 starting pitchers this year, while Cleveland is still at their initial 5. So just always keep that in the back of your mind. Like that. That's and a lot of people keep digging Cleveland's starting pitching depth, and I'm like, it's not like they fall off like a cliff. They've got a 6th and a 7th option. Like it's not like it's this dire situation. I mean, it would stink compared to what they have, but it is interesting how it's written versus my perception. So if you watched the home run derby yesterday, or whenever the heck it was, you saw Jordan Walker win it, which is, I asked Justin, like, he won it, right? Like that's the player who won. And Jordan Walker, I was a huge fan of his. I thought he was someone Cleveland should target in his draft class. It was just, with his mix of like, he's super intelligent, quick bat, everything else. And then unfortunately the Cardinals in 2020 took him before Cleveland could ever even get a shot at him. And there was some debate over the years, like, what do you do? He was the top prospect in baseball, and it was a struggle. He came up in 23, right? It was his first year. And then it wasn't good in 23. It wasn't good in 24. It wasn't good in 25 even. Like he was, 584 OPS last year and 396 plate appearances. This year in 395 plate appearances, he's got an 887 OPS. Like it's a significant. And you look at his on page, there are some small improvements he's made, but it's not like it's a drastic change. And I joked with Justin on air. I'm like, but yes and no. And I'm not comparing these players. I'm not saying someone is going to be Jordan Walker. I'm not saying that he's comparable to an all-star, but Jordan Walker always had extreme bat speed, always hit the ball hard, always had one of the quickest bats when he was up. And as much as I still get myself in trouble with this, as much as every single time he plays in the game, we get like 7 messages from people about how lazy Gabby Arias looks. It's like, this team isn't going to quit on Gabby Arias, because you got to look no further than Jordan Walker, who took, 3 to 4 years and now he's a superstar. Gabby's never going to be a superstar. He doesn't have the same level of tools and that stuff, but like, they're not going to quit on the bat speed and defense. Like, as much as everyone out there see so many people who say like, oh, cut him, or I'm so tired with him, or I've never disliked anyone more. And it's like, we see people inventing stories about how he's hated in the dugout now. And I'm like, him and Rocchio are buddies. Like, I hate to bring it different. Like they're both Venezuelan. They come from a shared background. They bonded last year by all reports, working together up the middle. It was a competition, but they were helping each other out. It's like, again, Gabby is not Jordan Walker, but Jordan Walker shows us, when you have elite bat speed, a team isn't going to quit on you. So like that was just my thought. Like, again, Gabby Arias isn't that level of player. He never was a top 10 prospect in baseball. He was a guy who maybe snuck into the late 90s or the 80s at peak, if that. But, he's elite defense plus elite bat speed means, guys, I'm sorry, he's going to be here for a while.
And Mike Petriello of MLB had a great tweet today about this. I think that's where the discussion started, was that bat speed, it's not everything, because there are guys who succeed without it. Jose has never been a big bat speed guy, and Stephen Kwan in his best year is not a bat speed guy. He still isn't. But he took the top 25 guys in bat speed in baseball, and he said 2 are having bad years, and that's Austin Riley and Jarren Duran. Riley's been bad for a couple of years.
Yeah,
now.
He's been on decline for a lot of years.
Yeah, and Duran's had a bad couple of years or two now. And then 4 he said 4 people are having 4 of them are having moderately below average years, and that's Vlad, Joe Adell, Cam Smith, and then Matt Chapman. And then the rest of the other 19, he said, are having above average to excellent years. So again, not everything, but what is it saying? Like, not every guy who has bat speed is going to be a great player, but most great players who have bat speed or do have bat speed. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where that discussion comes from. Anyway, so while we're talking about trade targets, there's a couple that are in the news we should talk about, but there's a couple that haven't been in the news. I want to run your way. You're talking about the Athletics are clearly going to be open for business. One of the guys, I know you said Mark Leiter Jr. is your guy, and I think we talked about him off air as like did we talk about him on air in the offseason as a target? Or
yeah, we did talk about him on air too. I think you kind of liked him at points, and I was kind of less bullish, but like his on page is really nice, again, especially for a guy who is pitching in a non-major league environment. Let's be honest. Yeah. It's not a place that's good for pitchers, and he's I believe he's
to look at that. Yeah,
his hard hit is low, his barrel rate is low, his extension is okay. His like everything is kind of in the red, except for his breaking ball, and then fastball velo and expected batting average because of that. And his ground ball rate's just closer to average. But like everything else is going well for Mark Leiter. I know people will be like, oh, great. Yeah, I want to trade for a guy with a 4.41 ERA. But at the same time, it's like ERA is no way to judge.
289 FIP. I wonder what he's doing on the road with everything. On the road, it's where's the ERA on the road here? On the road, ERA is actually 6.11. He's at 240 at home. So that's weird. He's pitching better at home.
At home, even when it's weird.
Yeah,
that's why. Like, I kind of wonder to this day. I'm like, oh, could Patrick Bailey surprise us all? Because now he's out of San Francisco. He always hit well, best in San Francisco, but there's something about home games. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it is weird. I do have a name that I want to throw your way in the Athletics bullpen, and then I want to get to some hitters, and then we want to get to some undrafted free agent news and some other interesting news that the Guardians continue to kick butt on in the draft. So we've got a lot more to discuss on a jam-packed episode. Big thank you to our friends at Amazon for this limited break. Back to school season. Spend less on your kids with Amazon. We all know how crazy back to school season could be with the shopping experience. You get that list, and I hate to say it's coming soon. You get a few items on the list, and all of a sudden you got like these supplies, right? You got clothes, you got tech, and that really expensive calculator everyone has to have. And they once said it, you never have a calculator in your pocket all the time, but we do have computers all the time too. But I'm going to continue to reiterate this because I know it's a fact for all those listening out here. I know between Jeff, my wife, and a lot of other friends who are teachers spend a lot of money out of their own pocket on school supplies, and parents, they have to as well. Like, it's just unfortunately the reality of where things are with the economy of the world and schools these days, how they're funded. So you want to spend less on your kids and you want to save a little bit of money in your budget. You want to check out Amazon for those back to school supplies, and maybe do it sooner rather than later so you're not rushing. It might make you feel a heck of a lot better about the money you spent and the time you spent as well. So remember, Amazon's low back to school prices. Spend less on your kids. Every dollar you don't spend on them is a dollar you haven't spent on them. Shop back to school at Amazon and spend less on your kids. Something that costs you absolutely $0 at all is you can click the auto download button on your favorite audio platforms for Locked On Guardians to keep the show with you wherever you go. And you can also hit the bell on YouTube, get notified of when all of our videos go live. Jeff did a reaction video to every single Guardians pick this year in the draft. We were live for 13 hours. We were still putting out regular episodes. We still are. We don't get an all-star break. We gave each other a couple days off because we had stuff going on, and quite frankly, we just both probably needed mental breaks anyway after 13 hours together and all this whole season. So check out the videos. We're always producing those in every single day. So hit the bell and subscribe on YouTube. It costs you absolutely nothing. All right, so Jeff, the name I want to throw out to you, and I'm on board with Mark Leiter Jr., and I'm actually glad the Guardians didn't sign him because it doesn't actually matter, because any free agent reliever that the Guardians sign just isn't going to be good, let's be honest. If Mark Leiter came here, he'd have been terrible because it doesn't matter. How about Hogan Harris, Jeff? Hogan Harris is a lefty out of their bullpen. He's got a 1.25 ERA away from Sacramento. He's got a 3.10 FIP away from Sacramento. He has he's 62nd percentile in extension. Everything on his Savant page is red except for chase. Guys do not chase on him, but he gets whiffs in the zone. His biggest issue is his one flaw, as fake Paul DePodesta would say in Moneyball, is that he walks players. He has a 14% walk rate, and he had I believe he had a pretty bad walk rate a year ago, 11%. So he does walk guys. Is he better? Do you feel better about Hogan Harris or worse than Tim Herron?
Worse, and I don't think Oakland would trade him. Like, this is going to be he's got 4 more years of control. And again, like, they were trying.
He's 29.
Doesn't matter. He's 4 years of control. They're trying to build towards something, and they don't have enough pitching to begin with. Like, I think they're going to hold on to pitching that is, that they have team control on, because they're struggling to get it. So I don't think they'll move Hogan Harris, because I think they're looking at this as like, hey, we got injuries and that knocked us out. They're trying to build towards something. So I don't think a Hogan Harris they'll even consider moving. But I would prefer Tim Herron to Hogan Harris. It's just the walk rate's going to be a killer. I know Tim Herron has his walk issues, but like I think Tim Herron is. Hogan Harris is like, he's never been great. Like, he's always kind of struggled with like mediocre FIPS. He's a lateral move. Nope. Give me Mark Leiter, and I don't need Hogan Harris.
Okay. How about Jose Suarez? 28-year-old 5'10" lefty, and away from Sacramento, it is a 1.88 ERA. He's bounced around a little bit, but everything on his Savant page also pretty red. He does walk some guys, doesn't have a lot of extension, but guys are not barreling him. They're not hitting him hard. They need a lefty from somebody. I mean, Jose Suarez has bounced around. He's a free agent at the end of next year. What do you think?
No. This is his 3rd team this year. Like, if all these teams are giving up on him, this stuff isn't that great right now. He's in a good stretch. Atlanta needs bullpen help. Seattle needs bullpen help. Yeah, he's been good for for the Athletics in this stretch, but this is a guy with a lot of opportunities. This is a dead cat bounce. This isn't anything.
311
No.
woba by lefties against him. He can't get righties out.
But I mean, he's. I think this is just a good stretch. It's 32 good innings. Like we see guys have this. He is throughout his career. I mean, he threw over 400 innings, and he's always been poor for most of his career. Occasionally, like he'd have little stretches here or there where he was starting, though, not as a reliever. But as a reliever, his stuff is poor. This just strikes me as a good little run.
I don't know, 375 last year at 186 ERA. Like only 19 innings, like you said.
Yeah, like not in many innings. He wasn't.
I don't know. Look, beggars can't be choosers. There's not going to be a lot of left hand. Like who has a left hand?
These aren't guys you can trust in the postseason. So who cares?
I'm not asking you. Well, it doesn't matter if you can trust in the postseason or not. I'm asking you to acquire a couple of guys to get you there, and then whatever happens.
These guys aren't going to help get you there. They're going to help short circuit you there because they're not good enough. There's no point wasting your capital on crap. Like
Jose Suarez isn't going to cost much. Come on, get rid of
I mean, it's still going to cost you some of your capital. Like I'm not spending my powder on guys who are equal chance they get cut as they do help you. Like that's not where we got to go. Like that's why Oakland is only Mark Leiter. They don't have anything else outside of Mark Leiter. It's interesting that is over 30 on that team or soon to be a free agent. That's why
the other guy. There's two guys on the Mets. The Mets should sell. AJ Minter's been really good.
Brooks Raley is the guy to get.
We talked about him earlier in the year. He is 30. I think AJ Minter and Brooks Raley.
Yeah, I'd be up for either of those. Like I agree. Give me those two over the Oakland guys any day of the week. Like Minter can't stay healthy, but
with David Stearns, so that could be in their favor as well. Let's move over to offense for a little bit. The one rumor that had me raise my eyebrow, I thought was interesting, and that this will take a decent amount of capital, not the kind that people on Twitter are saying, but some. There's a column, and take this with a grain of salt because it's Bob Nightingale, but he says that the Reds are getting a lot of interest on Spencer Steer, and I asked Jeff Carr, who is the host of Locked On Reds.
I texted him as well.
Yeah, and I said, "Do you think the Reds will actually listen on Spencer Steer, who, by the way, former Guardians draft pick, so he is a former Guardians pick, draft pick. They didn't sign him, but the Reds are 9 games out in their division. I don't know where they stand in the wild card spot, but Jeff says they need to trade. They said they don't know if he's the guy to trade, but I was looking at him the other day, and the stats are a little bit wonky."
Yeah,
like he definitely hits lefties better than righties. Obviously, he's a platoon guy. If you look overall, like I know people are going to say home road splits, right? Because he plays in a bandbox, and his road splits they're okay. Yeah. He hits left, but I drilled down a little bit deeper, and I don't know if this is like so granular, it doesn't matter. But I went and saw, okay, what is he doing against lefties on the road? I want to know what he's doing because he would cut. If Cleveland ends up with Spencer Steer, it's going to be to hit lefties. So is he hitting him outside of the Great American Small Park? And yes, he's got good numbers against lefties on the road. I don't know how much we can trust that granular of a stat, but I'm trying to strip out the home advantages he gets in Cincinnati. I am very curious to see what it takes to get him because he seems to me like a great fit for Cleveland. Right? He doesn't strike out. I don't think he chases. He's got some power. He plays first. He plays the outfield, not well.
Poorly.
But he played center field for them the other day, which is so bizarre.
No, they have Tito, who put Michael Martinez and
Mike
Freeman, and he put that one out there.
All Cleveland needs him to do is stand in left field. You can move Quan to center. You have Angel still. He can platoon with Angel, whatever you want to do. The interesting
thing with Steer is he actually runs really well. He's 82nd percentile in sprint speed, but he's a terrible defender. As you said, he doesn't chase, but he still whiffs. He Ks. He doesn't walk enough. It's a very limited profile. Like
he walks some.
Like he's like 50, but that's like 50th. But that's like only like 50th percentile anymore in baseball. Like that's not walking. That's just being average at walk rate. Like a 9% walk rate anymore is league average. Like because everyone's walking so much.
I'll take league average.
He doesn't hit the ball hard. He doesn't.
He barrels it.
Good barrel. But. It's such an incomplete profile, which is why like I'm very leery. And it's like I'm not looking at. I mean, come on, look at the Guardians right now. Like, look at this team. Look at the guys on this roster. We know that 1 year data of hitting lefties is worthless. So when you look, and Steer is killing lefties this year. When he's hit him
last year,
he's hit them for his career, but he's been just kind of like solid, not like spectacular.
928 in 2024.
I mean, just do as a career. it'll sum it all up for you. It'll be simpler
Yeah.
that way. But like, and it's not quite as strong then outside of Create America as his career, because I was looking at him as well. It's a very limited profile that's going to be expensive because of the control. And as we've seen with Martinez, as we've seen with Fry, as we've seen with like multiple players. I mean, remember when Stephen Kwan was a rookie and he hit lefties and had reverse splits, and since then he can't hit a lefty to save his life. So I like Spencer Steer is fine if he wasn't
a 125 WRC plus against lefties first career.
Yeah, career.
I would not turn my nose up. I would not.
No, I wouldn't either. But I think the cost to get him is going to be such as because you're looking at so this would be 2 more years of control, 2.5 years of control. Are you willing to give up like Junior Caceres? Are you willing to talk? Like they're going to ask for Braylon Dowdy to start. That's going to be a starting point because it's 2.5 years of control. They're going to ask for something big, and that's why. Like, I really need Baltimore to die like a dog because Taylor Ward is the perfect fit for this team, just in terms of like, he consistently gets lefties, he's right-handed, he has some pop. Just trying to go through and find like the players who have been more consistent, because even like, how much time do we spend this offseason? Rob Refsnyder this, Rob Refsnyder that. Like, it sounded like you and I wanted to adopt Rob Refsnyder, and he's been
seems like a nice guy. He's
a nice guy, but like, it's just like the danger of all this is like, when you're trying to find that very specific thing, you want to find and Refsnyder would be the worst example, because like for his career he has killed lefties, but like, Juan Soto over the last 3 years has the third best or second best WRC plus against lefties. It's down this year. It's so hard to try to find these types of hitters, and that's why I'm like, who's 17th over the last 3 years? Spencer Horowitz. Again, this is the name is back to like, I am gonna always be more upset about Spencer Horowitz than Junior Caminero, because one of them had played at the big league level and one of them had attitude problems as a 17-year-old kid. It's like, you just go through the list. It's just Trevor Larnach but again, I don't think the Twins are going to trade in division with someone.
Those are all lefties though, which is weird.
I know, but that's the thing. But I mean, this is over 3 years. These are the guys who have the best data. JJ Bleday is 33rd over the last 3 years. I mean, you're maximizing.
He was free a couple of years ago, Jeff. All the Guardians had to do was ask me, and I had said, "Hey."
Yeah, I mean, well, he's also hit a wall this year, so that's changing. Duran is 40th over the last 3 years, but he's been just awful this year. Stephen Kwan is still 45th over the last 3 years in WRC plus first lefties at a 106. Like, looking at the whole, looking at the big picture. I mean, honestly, it's like maybe they should trade Travis Mazzana for Louis Arise. I'm kidding. People might have seen that trade.
It's too late for that. It's too late for that.
But Arise is at a 111 over the last 3 years. He's hitting well this year. Defensive metrics are good at second base. He is left-handed again, but like, I'm not going to focus as much on the right-handed of it is like, can you just hit, and do you have a history of hitting lefties? And like, I mean, you probably want to talk Casey Smith. You want to talk Louis Arise. I think it's the Giants, who, by the way, currently I probably closed tabs because I'm me. The Giants can pick no better in 10th because they've had too many high picks, but let's see, their 427 winning percentage would be fifth worst in baseball. They'd be tied with the Athletics for fifth worst in baseball. So that, I mean, people have asked about Helio Ramos. I just don't love the defense and some of the other stuff. Like, go for Arise, go for Casey Smith. Like, those are the guys to go for with San Francisco.
Should we spend the last few minutes talking about the undrafted free agent news?
I think we have to.
Yes. So the Guardians, they've signed. You touched last night on a couple other guys they signed.
I just didn't get to Figueroa, and Albanese hadn't been announced when I was recording.
So Pablo Figueroa has signed. That's official now, according his Instagram has it all over the place. Yeah. He's posting it everywhere, so it's official. So yeah, like you said, same school as Sebastian Roland. Which is interesting. Yeah, it's probably Roland. You're right. That's probably one of those names that you pronounce better than I did.
Perfect Game had him 73rd in the entire class. Like, Perfect Game is not what they used to be since Brian Sikowski, who we love, left, but still, like,
you said Baseball America had him as one of their top 300, right?
Yeah, it's so weird, but hey,
what's your theory? Throw your theory out there just in case.
Okay, so there's basically two thought processes for this. One, everyone knows they're a pitching factory, and and he's a UCF commit, which again is a Big 12 school, so that's not a weak commit anymore. That's a big commit,
and they can spend up to $150K on undrafted free agents. Correct.
And so it's like, either, hey, everyone's excited to come pitch for the pitching factory. He's got a chance to come play with his friend. Him and Roland went to the same high school. They were part of the Puerto Rican developmental like league. So there's that. But the other side makes me wonder too with him and Albanese, we'll talk about in a second. It's like, is there someone who's maybe no other cat? Is there maybe someone who's not signing? Is there someone who, like I every year there's a few guys who decide to go back and like, I want to go to college, or I want more money and try to play hardball. And agents don't like that because it looks bad for them. But teams also really don't like to feel like they're being held hostage. So I don't know. We'll see. Like, not to put fear in anyone's mind. Albanese, very quickly on him, super young. He's still only 20. He's not going to turn 21 until September. He had terrible data all throughout college, could not perform well, walked a lot of guys, was better a year ago at missing bats. But like, you look at, Jacob Rudner, who is friends of our friend at Baseball America, did a data sleepers in this draft class, and there's Albanese because he's got 7 feet of extension. Yeah, it's from last November. This is heading into last year, but it's like, okay. It still holds, heading into last year, where it's like massive extension, the attack angle, low to mid, keeps the fastball at the top of the zone, some interesting data in it with his shape. I don't know about the high quality breaking balls. The data I have doesn't look the same on that, but still there's tools to work with. And San Jose State, by the way, doesn't have TrackMan data. This is one of the few universities that like all the data had to come from road data. So he's also, San Jose State isn't exactly, he's underdeveloped. He's 6'6", huge extension, and he's 20. So like if he had transferred, he could have transferred to a lot of bigger schools, probably got a little bit of NIL and done that. Yeah. So, maybe he is not as much, but Figueroa, these two guys are great, but I would argue like Albanese and Figueroa are probably two of the top 10 most interesting players they've added now. Like for me in this class, like I think both of them I would put ahead of anyone on like the 11th to 12th round. And I say that as someone who is Patrick Coyle was probably the most interesting guy to me on those picks. Before that, Coyle and Bean were the top two, but now I would say Figueroa and Albanese are far and away more interesting guys. And I would just be curious. Maybe someone isn't going to sign, maybe, but maybe this is just, hey, they can cut a lot of money because everyone wants to come and pitch here, because if you want to be maximized, Cleveland's it. And again, everyone knows they treat their players well. It's a good environment. People get chances to get promotions and leave Cleveland, and they don't take it because of how good the environment is here. Like vibes are high at all times, and that information is gonna, make them a place that people want to sign for a little less.
Yeah. All right, we'll talk more about some draft dominance tomorrow. There's a couple of notes we didn't get to. We'll save for tomorrow. We'll also talk Guardians Pirates. We'll talk second half storylines. Look ahead to the minor league weekend as well, because games are finally starting once again. And again, just patient with the trade deadline stuff. Like we're going to be talking trades. We'll follow whatever is out there. But again, be careful who you're listening to in terms of rumors. It's going to be silly season here soon. So think before you retweet, think before you react, and, double check some sources, and just know that it's going to be a slow developing trade deadline.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Like I said, Giants, Mets, Rockies, Angels, Royals, Athletics should be the clear sellers right now, and hopefully we will have more, and everyone needs to be rooting.
Buy with the Angels, but yeah.
Well, and everyone needs to root for the Orioles to die like dogs. Unfortunately,
or fans. I did see a rumor about a big closer on the market. We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah, that'd be fascinating. But thank you all for joining us. Remember, rate and review. Set it to automatic downloads. Last time I looked, we got 299 iTunes reviews. Let's get us to an even 300, and then I hate even numbers, so let's take it up to 301 after that.
You hate even numbers. You're the only person who ever said that.
Oh yeah, if I was back when I was working out and stuff, I always had to do one more than a rep of 10. It'd be reps. So it's just my mind. I probably gave you all just some insight into my weird psyche. But thank you all, and go Guardians, go.